Paper. Gaming Today, the club on Netflix. Trail. What? Hold on. There you go. That's better. Today on the Netflix Gaming Club, Paper Trail. Welcome to the Netflix Gaming Club. It's a book club for video games where for the next 8 weeks, we'll be playing the best games that are available right now for free on your phone with a Netflix subscription. I'm James Carlisle.
I'm Lindsay Burak.
And I'm Yasmin Thomas.
Hey guys, how about that intro? A little Foley art. We're upping our production values.
This is professionalism at its finest, absolutely. Scrunching a paper into a mic.
Yeah, for real. We've got props now.
Today, we're talking about Newfangled Games' Paper Trail, which is a top-down paper-folding puzzle adventure game in which you play as Paige, who's going off to college. And the paper puns are really laid on thick there in the beginning. You play as Paige, who's going off to college, or university, rather, to study astrophysics, spatial, she says bending time and space, or
space and time manipulation, something along those lines.
Spatial folding, one might say.
Spatial folding.
Like a piece of paper.
But
oh yeah, leaving her small town of Southfold.
Southfold.
It's not South Bend, which is a real place. So you leave your home and your parents and you go off into the gameplay loop, which is a series of pages, which is going to get confusing. That name is really going to be a problem. A series of pages with an entrance and an exit along one of the edges, and then you must fold the page to create a path between them. These pages are rendered in this beautiful storybook style. Like, this whole game really goes into the papercraft aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so
it's
beautiful.
It's so pretty. Like, it's very colorful and natural.
Yes.
Like, the environments are very like a forest and like a swamp.
Swamp, yep.
Swamp.
It's been so long since I played the beginning of this game. And you'd think I'd remember it because this game is so hard. Like, I spent so long on every page, on every screen. Oh, God. How are we going to do this? The character's name is Paige. The game is played on a series of pages. What do we call them? We call them screens from now on? We call them pages,
Maybe we
papers?
could just call her Paige the girl.
Paige the girl?
Like Portugal the man or something.
Yeah. That's exactly what that sounded like. So let's go right at the bat with this. With this storybook aesthetic and the whole papercraft thing, is this a cozy game? Like, the vibes are there immediately.
Yeah, very much
but
so.
The difficulty level does not quite
It's
lend
not
itself.
a cozy
when
difficulty
I settle into
level.
a cozy game, I want to not have my stress levels rise, and I don't think that this game quite accomplishes that.
Well, for me, I don't mind the difficulty of it. I find it still cozy because you're not rushed through the difficulty. Like, it's not a fast-paced game. You take your time. You're folding the corners or the sides of each page to try to find new pathways.
There's a hint button.
There is a hint button, although I was very frustrated with that hint system, to be honest.
Tell me about that. I never used it. I mean, sorry,
Okay.
I never
Jamie,
used it.
I hate you for this.
Anyway.
That was a real question.
I know.
I'm asking.
The hint system, so basically it shows you each step of which corner or edge of the page you're supposed to fold in that order. But because there are little game mechanics within the page, like, for example, a moving platform that you can place Paige the girl on and move her across from one pathway to the next, stuff like that. The hint system doesn't show you those things. So there were times when I struggled not with how I was supposed to fold the page, but how I was supposed to do things like get Paige the girl and like a boulder both across to like one side of the page without pinning the page down, because as the three of us know, when you have like a boulder or your character on one part of the page, you can't fold past that point.
Yes.
You can't touch it, yeah. I will say I liked that. I agree that I wish it's a hint. It's very much a hint, not a tutorial, so I will give them that.
True.
I liked that it was a little slider. Instead, like, there's just all of the key folds for that page are points on the slider, and you go to each of them and see how you need to fold the page at each point, which I really visually it was very, very helpful.
Like a progress bar through
Exactly.
the folds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a full, this is how you solve the puzzle. It's just like, it's
you
just
need to fold this
You're working
top
towards
corner of the
this.
page.
had a couple of levels where I was really, really stuck, and I was just being totally blind to the solution, and the hint system didn't help me. But I didn't want to like look up the solution. I wanted to figure it out, you know?
I want to get back to the aesthetics of this game, but first, I want to dig deeper into this. I found it a little frustrating when the initial problem on it. So this game is kind of like a series of puzzles. Like every page, every paper is like a different puzzle, right? And they're all connected by this like greater path that's eventually going to take Paige to college. But I was irritated when the puzzle began with get the character Paige out of the way so that you can fold. And I think that comes down to the way I approach puzzles. So what I want to ask you guys is, were you guys more of a think ahead type of puzzle player, or were you just a kind of get in there and fold stuff up and see what happens kind of player?
I was more a fold stuff up and see what happens kind of player, but what I'd usually do is pull a few corners down or the sides to just kind of get an idea of what was going on, and then I'd use the function where you can press 2 fingers on the screen to see the reverse side, and then see like what I was working with exactly. But usually I was more exploratory.
My start off is always the 2 fingers, see what the back of it is, and then actually, okay, that's my start off when I'm thinking tactically. When I'm not thinking tactically, the first thing I do is get Paige to the extent that she can go.
Like towards the center or towards an edge?
Just if she's on like a dock, for example, in the swamp.
If down the path as far as you
can. Go down the path as far as you can go and then start folding was always my tactic, which doesn't actually work on some levels. So this game was a bit of a brain workout.
So we kind of described the gameplay, but let's go back for a second. So every level, like we said, takes place on its own piece of paper that if you were to take all these pieces of paper and line them all up would create one long snaking path. And your challenge on each page is to create a path for your player character to get from the edge they open on into the edge that leads to the next piece of paper, right? One thing that's really cool about this game is that if these were all actual pieces of paper, you could totally play this game like physically on like whatever 100 pieces of paper.
I did have a moment partway through where I went, the board game expansion of this should exist, frankly.
Oh, I'll take that one further. I would bet that they did that. That's how they designed the game. Is that they probably had pieces of paper and did that.
I did have moments where I did get a piece of paper just to like
really
think something through. If it was a particularly like I had to fold the corner in 6 different ways level and I kept getting like my character trapped or like a boulder trapped or something, I actually got a piece of paper at one point. I have this huge stack of origami paper from when I was a child that I do need to use up at some point in my life, and paper trail seems to be the moment.
Well, again, we're totally like the running order of this episode is out the window already, but let's talk a bit about that. So I know, Lindsay, I know you're an origami person, and Yasmin, you're telling me you are as well.
I am not. The reason I have a huge stack of origami paper at the age of 28 from when I was a child is that I was not successful. My family used to host, there was a like neighbor/family friend who was involved in this program, which sponsored Japanese high school students to come over for part of the summer and like learn in Canada. And we were a host family for a couple of years. And we were adorable children, so they were like, oh, let's hang out, let's make origami. And then they found out that us North American adorable children did not quite have the skills. But I still have like the paper that like those various people gave me. It sits in my house. It looks at me. It judges me. Paper Trail reminded me that I'm not very good at it, but still very satisfying when you figure it out.
So what I wanted to ask you guys is, does this game feel like origami to you?
100%. Well,
in a way. There's far less complex folds going on in the game.
You're never double folding anything. Once there's a
Thank
fold.
God.
And you can't do like different angles. Your fold from the center is always going toward the middle point. Like you can't angle it differently. You can't, as you said, double fold, stuff like that. But I feel like if they did have that in the game, it would become so complex that it would just be very frustrating to play. It would just be really, really hard. And it was already a challenging game. Actually, speaking of origami and challenging, my notes that I wrote for this game So normally when I'm playing one of these games, I'll take notes as I'm playing them to about what I want to talk about during the podcast.
Totally, same.
And this game, I was so I don't know the right word for it. Maybe I was so enthralled by it, I guess, that I wrote 3 notes for the entire game.
Oh my God.
3 notes, and here they are. Note 1, very cute, love origami.
That's my first note.
2, actually challenging. 3, so beautiful, love the characters' cheery red cheeks.
Aw.
Oh.
Yes. So, okay, that's a beautiful segue back to aesthetics, because as part of the storybook aesthetic, all the characters have that that anodyne children's book face on.
It's so cute.
It's so
adorable.
cute.
And the colors are so vibrant while still keeping to a color scheme, and
This does
it's
the
just
standard,
really beautiful.
every level has its own predominant color, right? Like the swamp is very dark green, and
then it'll have contrasting colors. There'll be a scene that's almost entirely in blue, and then their red cheeks are just standing out against their pale skin, and it's just so cute.
So the visuals in general are quite striking. There's a part later in the game where you're in a forest during a lightning storm, and the rain and the trees blowing in the wind and the lightning flashing and the shadows on the trees, it all looks 2D, but it's got this ability to move in this 3D-ness to it. Again, I was taking screenshots for the episode cover, and I was noticing, whoa, the trees are blowing in the wind. They'll be slanted one way in one shot. It's just
there's a lot more movement in it than you first, because you come in and you're it's a flat surface, it's 2D.
It's like a picture book.
And then you spend half a minute in a level and you see all of the different tiny touches of this thing is perhaps shaking or moving in some way. This plant is either blowing or moving, the frogs in the swamp even, right?
And the sound effects were so
sound.
full.
Oh my God.
There was so much going on. You
that
could
was
hear
some of
the
the most
crickets chirping,
beautiful
the
music,
frogs,
too.
Yes.
So there's all the nature sound, there's crickets chirping, there's the water, you can hear the wind, and the music. It sounded to me.
Oh my gosh.
So the way I describe it is, it sounded like 1 or 2 voices isolated out of a choir.
Yes.
How would you guys describe it's a very specific kind of singing. It reminds me of the Earth Final Conflict theme, which is a show from the 90s. Don't worry about it.
I am in a choir, and this.
Oh, give us a few bars.
I'll kill you. It very much feels like a chamber choir, more so. Full choir, full voice. You're talking 40 or 50 voices. You come to kind of a chord together. Chamber choir is a lot more of the not contrasting solos, but much smaller group of people singing both together and against each other. And I think that's a lot of what this music had.
It's very this wordless choral. It kind of reminds me of, the flower duet. It kind of reminds, because sometimes it will be 2 voices coming together and kind of counterpointing each other, and then they'll fade away and it will just be pizzicato strings.
Yes.
Or this little piano. It's
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
I think at one point, especially when you have the flashbacks and it's just music, I would sometimes be I'm just going to put this down for a second and listen.
Oh yeah, me too. And then, of course, with one exception, the characters don't speak. They all do
Simlish. I'm going
wow, that was
you did that
perfect.
perfect.
Yeah, that was
That's
what the character.
exactly what
that's
it sounds
they
like.
sound like.
Damn.
Lindsay, did you 3D out of this game? Did you?
Yeah,
did you fall out of the phone?
I could see it between the 3 of us. I could see. Yeah, well, okay, I won't have to describe the way they talk anymore. But
it's been done.
It sounds like that.
My first thought was Simlish. As soon as I tapped on someone and they opened their mouth, I was oh, here we are again.
So I wrote this whole thing about how it's not quite Simlish because they're kind of singing and it's very musical. But no,
to me, Simlish almost sounds like a bizarre, different
language. Yeah,
this sounds more like babbling.
It's
yes, true.
Someone
humming,
fake talking,
scat singing.
It's so charming too. I mean, normally you'd be why is only one of these characters speaking? Why are they saying all these weird little things? This game is the world of it plays so well together. You have this music building in the background. You have these cute little babbling characters.
And of course, super crisp, beautiful paper folding sounds.
Oh my God. It's
so
scratching your brain.
It totally is. And it really does itch a part of your brain. That plus the fact that you're playing on a touch screen and folding these things all manually, and you can choose very precisely how far to fold them, and you can grab the pages from any side and fold them. It feels so tactile and satisfying and good.
I will say I had a moment when I was playing it where I just kind of went, how would this work on any other, or how would this be this satisfying, I should say, on any other platform?
Oh,
Like,
if you
I
had a
can't imagine
mouse,
enjoying it with a mouse. I can't.
a
Having
controller, can you imagine?
physically folding it as I'm holding my phone felt so good.
This is one of those games where it actually felt better on the little phone screen. Like I played it on my
Yes.
iPad and on the phone, and like, oh, it was so nice to pull it out and play it on the phone. Like it just felt so good.
It's very much like, I know that this game wasn't originally designed for mobile, but it feels like this is the home that it's
So
that it's found.
I didn't,
if that makes sense.
I didn't get into it on the intro, but this game was released on May 21st, I want to say, 2024, for the Xbox, the Switch, the PC, and Netflix simultaneously. So
Ooh.
this might be the preferred way to play the game. This is one of the few games we
I
played
knew it was
that-
on a bunch of different platforms, so I
Mm.
assumed it wasn't intended this way, but this really feels like, and again, I'm saying this, I haven't played it the other ways, but this is just such a perfect game in the format that it's in that I can't imagine a way for it to be better.
So, like we said, this game is a series of traversal puzzles. You're getting Paige to college so she can study astrophysics because, and this is one of the few bits of plot I was able to get. The plot is very sparse. Like, this really does feel like a series of puzzles that have like some plot kind of supporting it.
Mhm.
But Paige is going to study spatial folding because her brother would sometimes disappear into cracks in reality when he was younger.
And also, you start off with, I'm going to college. This isn't a, like, your parents see you off and you wave goodbye. She's running away because her parents are so overprotective that she isn't allowed. She got into her astrophysics program of her dreams to study, this insane time-space origami that she can do, and her parents said no. So you start off with her running away overnight. And yeah, as it gets revealed, it's her brother slips through the cracks, all of this different backstory. Her parents are overprotective for a reason, but your starting point is like parents who kind of want to lock you inside and keep you safe.
Okay, I was confused by that. In my notes, I had, did she run away? Is she going to college? What's going on?
She
Yeah, she
explicitly
ran away.
says,
I found this story a little hard to grasp at because it's given to you so, like, in little bursts between.
it's a trickle.
worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk about how that story is communicated because the game is mostly these puzzles we've described, but there are these interludes between worlds, like between the swamp world and the forest level. Like every now and then you'll get like a big multi-page puzzle where it's like 4 pages you have to all fold together to make a super path through all of them. And then you get to go into another, I guess what I'd call a cutscene. It's not really a cutscene,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interactive.
Yeah.
And those cutscenes are like a different take on the game entirely, where they're not really puzzles. They're more just like they're more like interactive cutscenes where you have a still image and then you fold it
You peel back a corner
Yeah.
or
and then you create another image using the image on the back.
and
then
it's like the next scene of the
Mhm.
cutscene, basically.
and these big, beautiful panels. And sometimes the folding can be kind of profound. Like there's a part early in the game where Paige is talking about being close with her parents. And it's an image of Paige in
the
bed. And then you fold the other side of the page in on that picture of Paige so that you're folding her parents' bed around her so that she's then in bed with her parents.
yeah.
And it was, I mean, so beautiful. Like it like
Yeah.
brought a tear to my eye. Just I think like at that point the music had gotten me and like the
Yeah.
you
No,
know.
there's genuinely these ways that just the mechanisms elevate the story and telling it and how you're feeling. Again, especially in the cutscenes, but yeah.
And about the bed, you can like fold the 2 edges of the page together incorrectly so that you just see the parents in bed together. And then you realize like, wait a minute, you have to fold it so the 2 edges are on either side of her and they're all together in one bed. Like, I don't know, it's just really nice seeing that you can make the scenes in different ways and figuring out the right way to put the scene together to progress the story.
Another thing I want to say about the controls, really quick, going back to the main game, is the other thing that makes this really good on mobile is point and click pathing. Like
Hell
in
yes.
Moonlighter, you just click a place and Paige goes there. There are times when you need to push a boulder. One of the most awesome innovations in this game is that you don't have to put Paige behind the boulder and then drag her down. You can just drag the boulder itself,
Mhm.
and then Paige will just do the moves that she needs to do to get it there.
Yeah.
And with the boulder as well, when you hold on it and try and move it either direction. It shows you the paths it can take. It shows you
that are physically possible for Paige to take it too.
Yes.
As things are set out. Like she'll do one movement. She won't like take it around a corner. You got to figure that out.
There is one thing that bothered me about the mechanics, and this might have been a glitch or something, but occasionally I'd do a fold and I would try to unfold it because it was the wrong move. And even though there was nothing on the fold to prevent the page from being moved back, like there's no boulder, there's no character on it, it would just show an X along the line sometimes when I tried to pull it back, and I'd have to do it like 3 or 4 or 5 times before it would actually let me unfold.
With no changes? Because for me, every time that happened, it was because I forgot about a platform.
Yeah,
it was always the goddamn platforms.
No, I had to keep doing it. Like there were times when I kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and it wouldn't work, and then suddenly it would just start working. Like I hadn't moved anything else.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the game would like freak out a little bit. Like if there were 2 folds beside each other, it wouldn't quite know which fold I was trying to grab.
Yeah, but it was showing the correct, like it kind of lights up either the corner or the edge of the screen when you're dragging it. And it would be showing me as if I had grabbed the right portion of the page, and it would just show an X over it, like as if I couldn't make that move, even though I could. There was nothing stopping me from it. It was probably just a glitch or some other issue like that, but it was just frustrating sometimes.
I will say as the outlier, I had no glitches whatsoever. Like my gameplay experience was, what's that phrase? Smooth as butter. So
smooth as eggs, I believe they say. I found it, I think in general, like this game is just very, very well realized and put together. I feel like we should get back to how hard it was though.
Yeah.
Because my God, it got, every level you play, a new mechanic will kind of be introduced, 1 or 2 mechanics. Like in the first level, I think it's the boulders and
first level's boulder, the swamp gives you the moving platforms.
You later in the game, you get like teleportation doors.
There's like a lock and key.
There's the lock and keys from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I like the lock and key a lot. You eventually like, it kind of drops the linear nature for a while and you go to a village, and like the thing that page introduces is fire. And so I, without thinking, almost burnt the village down.
Yeah, in a paper game, there's some...
the paper can be on fire. It's fun. But it got to the point where like every time a new element would be introduced when I got to a new world, I was just like, oh God, I can't. Like if I would, at first, every time I'd see a boulder, I'd just be like, okay, all right, we'll figure this out. But then there'd be like a boulder and a moving platform and a teleportation door. And I'd just be like, can't fit all these moving parts in my head at once. And it forced me to question, like, do I lack object permanence? Am I like a toddler? Do I just like not?
I mean, I think the tactic that served me really well is you're describing going in and you see the 6 different things you might have to solve and get overwhelmed. If you just take it piece by piece, like I would go, okay, how far can I move page? How do I move her to the next piece? How do I move her to the next piece? If you look at the whole page, it does get overwhelming, especially in later levels. But this game is very good at going, okay, take a breath, look at each tiny move you have to make, and leading you through in that way.
Take a breath. That's central. There is such a meditative aspect to this game. Like you can really lock into the sounds of the nature and the folding and just kind of go with it.
That's why it's a cozy game to me, because like it's so peaceful, the colors are so beautiful, it's so picturesque, the sounds, like doing things one step at a time, just slowly making your way through a level. Because it's a puzzle game and not like a fast-paced action game, you can kind of just like lie in your bed playing the game and just be like super cozy while you're playing it. And to me, that's like what makes it a cozy game.
It's immersive. Captivating is the right word for it. I think I had like very engaging and innovative in my notes.
Did it get you into that hypnotized place, like when you're doing a Sudoku, where you're just like, you're in it and it's all you're thinking about?
So my comparison point by the time I was like a couple levels in was just me going, oh God, this feels like when I was 11 and playing Brain Age. Anybody remember that?
Yeah,
Nintendo DS suffering? The thing that was really difficult for me with this game wasn't like the boulders and the moving platforms necessarily, because I just kind of went, they'll be relevant at some point. I don't have amazing spatial reasoning was the lesson that this gave me. Like I'd turn something over and go, why won't that work? And the game is like, because that's not how physics or paths work. And I would go, but what do you mean? What do you mean that's not? So learning about myself and the fact that I don't actually understand path making.
Did you feel smart or dumb when you finished a puzzle?
Depended if I had to use the hints or not. And I did have to a couple times just because I would... The thing I really liked about the format of the game actually was that if you kind of got stuck in the middle of a level, you could close the game, and when you came back, it would be at that same point with the same corners folded. Really appreciated that, because there's other games that we've played and that exist in general where when you close a thing, you have to restart the entire level.
Mhm.
This one is very, you can put it down. Don't worry about it. We'll keep all of your folds the same places that you left them. But if I did it where I got stuck, I put it down, I came back to it, I solved it myself, definitely accomplished. Actually, I'm a genius. That one Facebook game which would like tell you your IQ, your fake IQ every time you played it.
Isn't that Brain Age?
Oh, did they adapt it for... There was like the Facebook gaming version. Terrible dark time when Facebook gaming existed. But
Yeah, Netflix gaming is so much better.
But yeah, so if I solved it myself, if I put it down and I came back to it and I figured it out, that was great. If I went back to it, still couldn't solve it and had to use the hints, then it was less accomplished and more like dragging myself along the floor, coughing up blood. So range of emotions here.
For me, it depended on how obvious the answer was after the fact. Like once I solved a puzzle, I would sometimes be like, how did I not see this earlier? And then I'd feel really dumb. But some of them actually felt like really hard. And I was like, yeah, good job, you.
If I don't get stuck, I think you totally unlocked that for me just now. It would be if I don't get stuck, I'd feel smart. And if I do get stuck and I just feel like this puzzle's impossible, there's no way to do this. And then I'd see, oh, you just got to move the statue off the moving thing and then you can walk on the platform like oh, yeah. Oh, I'm stupid. Cool. Thank you, Netflix. You hit on something so key. Like I keep coming back to this idea of this being like origami and being like meditative. You mentioned that you'd put it down and come back a little bit later once you've rested and you're like, I'm just going to jump onto my experience there. I would feel so recharged if I put it down and like slept. I mean, obviously I felt recharged if I slept. Like that's fair enough. But like I'd pick the game back up and I could just see clearly and I could just think, and it's like that thing where it's working in the back of your brain when you're not doing it. This game really accesses that part of like your psyche, and I don't know, that feels so thematically successful that I'm kind of in awe of it.
Yes.
Like they made a game about origami and like it touches your brain the same way those kind of things do. Like, damn.
That's really funny that you your strategy for like when you couldn't solve a difficult level was to rest and come back to it, because my strategy was to consult with other people.
Sure.
Like sometimes I'd show my mom the puzzle and be like, what am I missing here? Or I'd show my boyfriend and he'd be like, do that. And I'd be like, that's when I'd feel stupid.
I was playing it covertly at my desk at work, so I was not about to show this to anybody. I mean, I could have like opened up some sort of new friendship level with my coworkers, but I also probably would have gotten, why are you not working on this document? So
no, you gotta be like, well, if you like this, Netflix has almost 100 games now, and that can be overwhelming, but we have this podcast
that...
Yeah. It is so unique and awesome to have a puzzle game with an entirely new mechanic that just feels so natural and like just tactile. Like the fact that you could do this physically in the real world, this feels like a gem. Like this just feels like such a brilliant, one of those things that like once it exists, you're like, oh, of course that exists.
Yeah.
I did have that moment briefly when I started playing it where I went, oh my God, this is so refreshing. And then, oh my God, how haven't we gotten here already? Because this is such an intuitive method of problem solving.
So I will say, I had a moment when I was moving a boulder onto a switch to open a door, and then I had to like fold space so I could get behind the boulder to move it. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is Portal. I've played this before. Like this game, one of the earlier thoughts I had about it was that this is like Portal if you actually had to fold space yourself to make the portals. Like the spatial folding metaphor for this, I'm in love with. I love that idea because it really is. Have you ever seen, this is so out there, but have you ever seen that demonstration of what spatial folding is, where a person, it's like the pencil thing, like what a wormhole is, where you take a piece of paper and you say, okay, I want to get from this side of the paper to that side of the paper. And I can either go across or I can fold the paper in half and go through the folds and then go from one side to the other. And that's like what a wormhole is supposed to be, like astrophysics. A game that actually like takes that on and allows you to do it, even in this incredibly cozy, like
family themed.
Yeah, there's
loving.
Still this huge like other side to this. And so what I want to ask you guys is, what do you think the other side of the page is?
That's a good question.
There's a part in the game, in the village, where you get to find a guy, and he's half stuck in a fold, like the page is pre-folded, and he's just like some legs sticking out of the fold. You open it up, and he goes, "Oh, thank God. I've been trapped in there for days. I've seen unimaginable things." And when he said that, I'm like, okay, cool. The game is actually asking that question. It is actually on there with me. I unfortunately did not beat this game, so I don't know what answers it holds.
Me
How deep it
neither.
goes into that.
I'm very curious if there is a real answer to it that's explored in the game, but maybe in just our own theorizing, it could be like an alternate dimension.
Right? It's like the back of the universe.
Yeah.
I thought alternate reality at first, and then when the dude's like unimaginable things, my brain went to, I mean, disclaimer, Lovecraft is an asshole, but the general idea of that underlying kind of unknowable felt very in line with the back of the paper, with the way that you're interacting with the world in this game.
Damn, I didn't say Lovecraft. I wrote Lovecraft in the notes. It totally has that like...
I was so fascinated by his stuff as a kid because it made so much sense to me that underneath the world there would be this like thing you couldn't confront without going insane. Not that Paper Trail does that to me, but sometimes I did feel like I was going crazy with some of these puzzles.
Yeah,
so
there
maybe,
it is.
there's parallels.
Did this game remind you... So it reminded me of Portal. Did you guys think of any other games when you were playing this?
Brain Age.
Sure. Fair.
Mostly crying over Brain Age because I was not very good at puzzles as a child. So every time I got frustrated with a level, I'd go, "Oh my God, remember when I like threw my DS across the room at age 11?
Nice. Those things are bricks, man. They can take it.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys ever played Monument Valley?
Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. It's so much like Monument Valley.
It's like Monument Valley with a bit more...
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that game. I loved it. I played it back in like, I want to say like 2019, maybe.
You might play it again soon if the Netflix upcoming games list is to be believed.
I bought it when I was going on a long trip, so I kind of went like, I want something for the flight, I want something for this, and then I kind of doomed myself because instead of going out and doing things on that trip, I sometimes was just playing Monument Valley.
Oh my God, that happens to me with reading all the time. Like I get a plain book and then I get really into the book and then I just want to stay inside and read the whole trip. Whoops.
I mean, I missed the subway stop playing this game, so there's that.
Exactly. No, 100%. The Monument Valley Paper Trail, like flat puzzle, family thread, like siblinghood, all of that. Yeah, Monument Valley enjoyers, this one is for you.
Okay, one more question for you all about Paper Trail before we move on to the B-side. Did you guys mess with the extra origami, the little bonus origami pickups, the challenge levels?
I think I got 1 or 2 ever.
Same.
I could not.
They were hard.
Hard as hell.
I'm outing myself bottom of the leaderboard. I didn't get a single goddamn one because I was so like, I just have to get through this level. I'm not going back for the little floating paper boat. Like, I know how to make that, first of all. Thanks, Ayumi, who stayed with us in 2005.
So there'll be like little extra pickups, like randomly put on, well, not randomly at all, but put on some pages that are like an extra challenge to get to this point. Okay,
it's like
you got
a bonus
to the exit.
collectible.
Yeah.
It gives the game replayability, right? Like if you love this game and you beat it, you can then go back and play hard mode, getting the extra challenges. It's pretty
because
standard.
It is hard mode, yeah. Because you're figuring out this path to get through, which a lot of the time is difficult on its own. And then when you flip over that page and see that extra one and go, I don't even know how I would rearrange the pathways.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, it was totally like, I don't have time for that. I'm not doing that. Like, that's crazy. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Do those have, like, if I got the origami boat, could I ride a little origami boat, or is it just going to show me how to make one?
It doesn't show you how to make one. I thought
that would have been a lovely feature.
When I saw it, I assumed it was an origami tutorial, and I was like, Ayumi taught me back in 2005. I know how to make a paper boat. I don't need this.
They're all named after origami shapes, like the bullfrog and the paper boat. Those are the ones I got, I think. The pickup always looks like a paper boat. It always looks like that, I think.
Oh, I thought that would change.
It gives you a different origami like reward, a little pin badge or whatever. But yeah, it's not a library of origami folds. I totally thought it was going to be.
Missed opportunity.
I wonder if that's a thing that was like on the cork board, that was on the whiteboard to get done. There's like, oh, come on. No one's going to get these. The game is so hard.
Tutorial on
no one's
YouTube.
ever going to get any of these anyway. It's fine. Maybe that'll be DLC on the back end. Okay, so the only thing left to ask is who would you recommend this game to, Yasmin?
Monument Valley enjoyers, now that we've made that connection, I can't believe I didn't, in all the time I was playing this game, think back to that like extraordinarily delightful connection.
That's the power of a brain trust. We get there together.
Thank you, Jamie, for showing me the light.
Damn, we should have called this the Netflix brain trust. Oh God, yes.
But Monument Valley enjoyers, anybody who kind of, it's a hard puzzle game, but because of how it's structured and how it kind of holds you through it, like the aesthetic, the music, the characters, if you want something that challenges you but that doesn't frustrate you the same way, I think this is a good option. Because a lot of the time when you get into, like, I love puzzle games, the more difficult you get, a lot of the time, the more serious you get. This is a really good kind of meeting of the two. It's hard, it's challenging. You are going to have to, like, really stretch your brain for it. But there's no weird, like, doom and gloom, life and death stuff coming into this. I mean, it's a
Going
little,
to college is
yeah,
scary.
well,
Your brother disappeared in cracks.
yeah, the brother
burnt the
thing is
village
a
down.
little bit life and death. But other than that,
How about you, Lindsay?
I would recommend this game to my mom.
oh,
Mom, if you're listening to
Totally.
this podcast,
which you
please
better
try
be. Come
it.
on, support us.
I think that you would like this game, and I think people who are like her, who enjoy like casual gaming while still having like an actual challenge, this game is perfect for you because it's just so easy to pick up and play and put back down. You can play it for like a minute, and if you're just like, I'm stuck in this puzzle right now, I don't want to keep going, you can put it down and you could so easily just pick up where you were. It's such a good like play for a few minutes throughout the day kind of game.
So good for that.
Yeah, I think that people who enjoy games like that, or who are looking for a game that they can just like play on and off through the day without putting a ton of time and energy into, then this game's for you.
Totally. I completely agree. My answer to that question was also going to be like my mom. I thought of my mom the whole time I was playing this game. I got to go see her now and be like, Mom, play this. Like this
Yeah.
is such a good starting point for maybe it should have been episode 1. Whatever. This is such a good starting point for someone who wants to like get into slightly more hardcore games. Like
Mhm.
move out of the Candy Crush cycle.
Yeah, totally, because it works as a like 101 Sudoku puzzles book. Like you can just play this
Exactly.
as disconnected puzzles, but you can also kind of see the adventure and string it all together. I mean, as this game introduces new mechanics, it only gets more fun. Like as
Yes.
it piles the mechanics, like when I was playing the first couple levels, I was kind of like, okay, this is good, but how deep is this? But by the end, when I'm completing like circuits, like it was just so cool. And so I think in the way of being like 101 Sudoku puzzles or like a pocket full of origami, like it just feels like something you can just like pull out and play and like put a few minutes into or an hour into and then feel like mentally drained in a satisfying way and then come back to it later. Like it's great.
It's
for
very
that.
rewarding.
All right, moms, this one's for you.
And if you're not a mom and want something for you, we'll be right back with the B-side for some non-mom related content. All right, so now for today's B-side, as for almost every B-side this season, we're going to be talking about some recommendations for some other media, just in case you weren't all about the origami vibes of Paper Trail. So, Lindsay,
I can't imagine that that's true, but
in
just
case
in
your
case.
brain is burnt out from all the complex folds, Lindsay's got a completely different game for you to try. And so why don't you tell us about that, Lindsay?
All right, so the past week I've been playing a game with a couple of friends called Chained Together. It's kind of blowing up a little bit on Steam right now, so it's possible that you have played this already or have heard about it, but I'm
I
going to
know
tell
I
you what
haven't.
that experience is like. So the game was released in June 2024 and developed by, apologies if I mispronounce this, Anagar Games, who may or may not be one guy. I'm not entirely sure about that.
Cool.
Does he just use like the royal pronoun all the time?
Yeah,
Or
like, okay, so the Anagar Games Twitter or X, whatever your preferred terminology is listed as an indie dev working on this game Chained Together, but all the posts say like we and our. So I'm not positive that it is one guy, but it might be one guy who's just sounding bigger by using we, the royal we.
Can't imagine a business owner doing that.
Anyway, so this game is a co-op platformer from hell. Literally. The game is either a solo person or up to 4 players chained together trying to escape from hell.
What do you
basically.
mean chained together?
As in, they have shackles and there are chains attaching them, and you are attempting to escape while controlling your character.
And not
only
the
as
other
far as
characters.
not the other characters. You can only
Oh.
get so far because you're attached together. You have to like time your jumps and your dodges. And
Wait, so you all have to jump at the same time?
yes,
This is terrifying.
This sounds like that. What hell is other people? What is that? No Exit. This sounds like No Exit, the game.
it's like a co-op. Do you know that game?
Yeah.
It's like that, but co-op and
A fumble core, they call that kind of game.
Yeah, it's like
There are so many words in this world.
So you're trying to jump and dodge and do all these platforming things while attached to other people. And there are 3 game modes. There's the beginner mode, which you can teleport if you fall back to the highest point you got to and just keep progressing a little bit further and further
This
each
isn't
time.
up?
It's sort of like a slight up. Like you are going up over time, but you're also moving like forward on platforms.
Are you like
you're
scored
doing-
by distance or like?
You're trying to get to the top and get out of hell, basically.
Right.
So you're just trying to get as far as you can. And
Kind of sounds like a roguelike.
it very much does feel like that, because like the beginner one, you can teleport back to the highest point you got. But the normal one, if you fall, you have to start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the lava mode, which is the only one I've tried so far, which is
Like a first
it's
scrolling.
slowly filling up with lava as you're climbing, so you can't just dawdle around. You have to like actually keep moving, or else you
So
will
the
be
lava's-
engulfed by the lava.
The lava's moving regardless, and like
Yeah.
it's basically like a timed thing.
So
Yeah.
wait, so you
Oh
said
my
you've
God.
only played lava mode? Like
I've
you
only
did?
tried lava mode, yeah.
Why?
Thank you, Jamie. You got there before I did.
Because the 2 people I'm playing with are more like
Mean?
hardcore gamery than
Oh.
I am, and they want to do the hardest thing that they can do, and I would just want to chill and have fun, so I just go along with it. I have suggested we try the beginner mode because I would like to see what the first I'd like to see past the first 5 minutes of climbing are like.
You like to feel the sweet feeling of success for
Yeah, I
a
want
small
to
moment.
actually feel like I'm accomplishing something instead of just starting from complete scratch every time I fall. Oh, and
Jesus.
it's also very difficult to if 2 people fall, the last remaining person is slowly being pulled toward the edge,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
they can pull up from the chains like the other people who are dangling, but you have to be facing them to be able to do that. And so you can't be running backwards at the same time as you're pulling the chain up. So you're kind of I find it
This
really
game sounds
difficult.
great.
They're better at it than I am pulling people up when they've fallen, but if I'm the only one left on the platform and the other 2 have fallen, we're probably going to have to start over.
This sounds like the team building exercise from hell, but it sounds
Yeah.
really good.
What's this game called again?
Chained together.
Cool. How about you, Yasmin?
I'm on the music recommendation side because, as my co-hosts can see, I'm currently wearing a tour shirt from a concert that I have attended. What I would like to recommend to you today is Purple Kiss. They are a K-pop girl group. They debuted November 26th, 2020. They are under RBW, which is the label. Stands for Rainbow Bridge World because, of course, it fucking does. Their big thing has, over the years, has tended to be that they focus on really strong vocals in their groups. Like some companies, you'll go, okay, I know I'm getting with their debuting group, I know that they can dance insane mode, and I know this, and I know this. RBW has always focused very much on vocalists. That is super true for Purple Kiss. I saw them live. Those mics were fucking on. Those mics were on. Because the other thing is that K-pop is so heavy on backing tracks, and there isn't a live band because it's electronic music primarily. So sometimes you see people live and the backing track is so loud you're not totally sure.
Oh, so when you say those mics were on, you mean they were not
They're
lip syncing. This was a legitimate.
exactly. There was
concert
no lip
experience.
syncing.
Mhm.
They were singing. They were singing for 2 hours. Also, but all of them, it turns out, are very conversationally fluent in English. So it was very back and forth
Good
banter
patter.
with the crowd.
Yeah.
Really good patter, really good performance. I think my big recommendation for them is just like strong vocals in general, but they also like they started off kind of rock inspired and have tended to like play with genre a lot in really interesting ways over the past couple years. So
If you could pick one song to introduce to newcomers, which song would you recommend?
oh, that's so hard. Okay, wait. Can I pick two?
Yeah, sure.
So like part of the thing I say with like playing with genre is that like I'm outing myself so much on this damn podcast. K-pop, like groups tend to pick like an image kind of and stick to it, right?
Sure.
Like you don't see that as much in Western music where people have like a concept for an album, then a completely different one for the next album. K-pop does that a little and like does that more now. But the route before was that like if you were a bubblegum pop group, you kind of stayed bubblegum pop, all of that. Purple Kiss has a discography that ranges from like super emo concept to bubblegum pop, and they do all of it well,
Cool.
which is talent in itself. So their bubblegum pop song that I really like is Agit. I'm not totally sure how to say it, but it's like a very cutesy, like first love kind of song, you know, kind of mellow, kind of fun. And then they have this like dance pop song called Zombie that I really, really like, which they performed and it was so good. And like several of the members, like again, the mics are on thing, like harmonized at different points or like did kind of like fun little, I don't know. I'm talking about this because I had the kind of concert where I was worried about recording this today because I lost my voice from screaming. So this has to be the recommendation. I've been thinking about it for 24 hours.
Hell
But
yeah. That's the best
fantastic
kind.
concert. They're fantastic. Everyone go listen to Purple Kiss.
Terrifying moment when you told me that you lost your voice as we were walking into the recording today.
You know when you scream and you like hear that little pop in your throat? Like that was last
You
night.
know when I went to say hi to you and you're like, hi. I was like, oh my God.
I'll do better next time. There are very, very few concerts on nights before recording. And yours, Jamie?
And mine. Okay, so I want to tell you about a awesome investigation game I played. Investigation game being a genre I've kind of made up for any game that has like a knowledge chart in it, and the primary thing you're doing is understanding what's going on. Like that's the primary like challenge.
All right.
So this game I want to talk about, the worst thing about this game is its name. So I'm going to tell you its name, and then you're going to forget it. And then I'm going to say it again and again and again to see if I can hopefully make this game memorable. This game is called Chants of Sennaar. Now, Sennaar is obviously not a word, 2 N's and 2 A's. And chance is not the word you think it is. It's not chance like rolling a dice. It's chance like the plural of chant.
Oh.
Chants of Sennaar. So,
You said that, and now that you've spelled it and laid it out for us, I'm going, that could be the title of like a fantasy novel at any given point in history.
well, it's totally fantastical. And continuing on from my weird biblical inspired recommendations, Chants of Sennaar is based on the Tower of Babel. So it's a 3D adventure game where your ultimate goal is to climb to the top of this tower. It's all done in this very stark, kind of sun-blasted style. It's very pretty. It's one of the few games I've played that have fixed camera angles,
Ooh.
which I always love. I love fixed, ever since Silent Hill 1. Like, a game that has, like, cinematography built in is just so much fun. So the point of this game is to learn the languages that are spoken at each level of the tower. Every time you go up a new level, it's a new language with new syntax that you have to kind of think about slightly differently. The way you play the game is through context. Like, wherever you go in the game, there'll be people walking around saying things, and they're just kind of babbling, and little symbols appear in speech bubbles to kind of explain what they're saying. And what you do is, through the context in the world, you try and figure out these languages. So the first puzzle in the game is you walk up to a door, it's closed, it's got a lever beside it, and the lever has 2 symbols kind of labeled on it. One at the top position and one at the bottom position. Door is closed, you pull the lever, the door opens. Gives you an idea of what those 2 symbols might be, right? They could be up, they could be down, they could be open, they could be closed, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You go into the next room, and there are 6 valves and a gate. And beside the 6 valves are 6 of those same 2 symbols. It's just a pattern of those 2 symbols repeated, right? And what you're meant to surmise is that you have to understand if these symbols mean open or closed, and then open the valves in the order shown on the pattern on the labels.
This is awesome.
It's so much fun. So once you figure that out and you close the gate, you then automatically open up your little book. That's the game telling you now have enough information, and it will show you the symbols. And then you manually write in, this symbol means open, this symbol means closed. And when you get it right, the game goes whoosh,
Manually,
it
So
fills
you
them
create
in.
your own little logic book.
Totally.
That's cool.
And then the game tells you if you're right or wrong. And then anytime, once you've locked a word in, or once you've even put a hypothesis for what a symbol could mean, whenever you see that symbol in the world, it's just automatically translated into whatever you put.
Oh my
That's
god.
awesome.
It is so much fun. And of course, it's the story of the Tower of Babel, so it has something to say about, like, you know, interconnectedness and understanding each other and the value of communication. It's completely beautiful. It's great. The only knock against it is it has some forced stealth elements, which you never like to see, but fantastic. The reason I'm bringing it up and talking about it now, I played it about a year ago, if you can't tell by my incredibly scattered description of the gameplay. It recently came to Xbox Game Pass. So if you're an Xbox person or you have a Game Pass account and like an internet connection, you can play it there now. I played it on Switch. Another great place to play it. Great game. Can't recommend it enough. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we're going to be playing Game Dev Tycoon. Lindsay, how does Netflix describe Game Dev Tycoon?
Design blockbuster games, build your studio from the ground up, and become part of video game history in this super satisfying business simulation.
Business simulation. It's going to be fun. I swear. It's going to be a good one. All right. We'll see you next week. The Netflix Gaming Club is produced by Big Bad Audio and engineered by Andrew Blythe. The show is hosted by me, James Carlisle, Lindsay Burek, and Yasmin Thomas. We'd like to thank the High Loves for the use of our theme song, Sure of It. Check them out wherever you listen to music. As always, if you like what you hear and want to help us grow, please rate us on Apple or Spotify, the higher the better. Or, if you're not into public displays of affection, you can always tell a friend or find someone to play these games with, and we'll be here for you guys after you do. Special thanks to Rob Schulte, Windy Pretty, and the Netflix Gamers Discord community. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.